Bryan Martin, very excited that you're going to be coming to Indianapolis and coming to 8 Seconds Saloon. And this is actually yours and my first time having a conversation. However, every time that I've seen like an interview or somebody having a conversation with you, you've always done such a great job of being extremely authentic and genuine and just being a real person. So, why is it important for you to have that demeanor about yourself, whether it be personal or even professional?
Well, I think it's mainly because I really don't know how to be anything other than that. But second of all, it's just because I worked hard to be where I'm at, and I um, never really had a clue I was going to make it this far, to be honest with you. And I worked out there in the oil field, and I provided for my babies, and I've always tried to be a guiding light for anybody that I can reach with my music. And I roll my sleeves up and I go to work and I show my scars and I tell everybody, if I can do it, you can do it. And that's not a cliche saying from me.
I think that's super respectful. With the children you brought up, how many kids do you have?
So I got four babies.
Okay.
I got a 13-year-old daughter, which that's in that beginning stages of, oh Lord, I got a lot to go. And then I got two daughters, two boys, but my oldest is a girl. My next to oldest is a boy, and then my middle child is a girl, and then my youngest son is 6 years old, and he's a boy.
Wow. So, do any of them kind of fully understand? 13, probably getting a little bit better understanding of the music industry, but do any of them fully understand kind of how big you are and how many fans you get and that kind of thing?
I don't know if they do. I think that they listen to me on a daily basis. I think that's the coolest thing for me is go home and just hear my music playing in different rooms and hearing them singing along to it, and me going, man, I'm waiting to hear them say that cuss word in that FAFO song, and they always say cuss word around and find out.
I like
so,
that.
so I'm doing something right, I reckon.
That's
But
awesome. That's good.
but
Yeah, man.
it's pretty cool to see that they got to come out and see me at the Opry, and I think that's when they were like, "Oh man, you might be famous, Dad." And I said, "Well, just don't forget I'm Dad when I'm at home." So
That's right. Well, so let's talk about the Opry debut because that was August 29th, I believe, that you made that. What was it like for you not only to have that opportunity because you're a country music fan, obviously, first and foremost before an artist, but
yes,
then you also having that phone call that comes through to tell you that you have that opportunity. So tell me about both of those experiences.
man, my guys kind of set me up for that when I was like, I was in here and I said, "Man, what y'all got a teleprompter set in here for?" And they were like, "Oh, we just got to read off some dates. You got to do." I said, "I've never used a teleprompter in my life. Just give me a phone to look at." And so they had it set up to where it was running too fast, then it was running too slow, and I didn't like the teleprompter. And then it was all set up for me to get aggravated right before it ran across the screen about the opera debut, and I just like, y'all really want to do this to me? And so it was as authentic as it could get, and I was so mad. I was like, "This is how y'all gonna do it?" I said, "I guess if anything, it was just a great way for them to do it and surprise me with." But I was able to call my mother and give her the news, and like I said, she kept me pushing forward. As soon as I told her I had the opera debut, she said, "I'm so proud of you. Now you got to get a CMA award." I was like, "Oh God." I was like, well, it's one more thing, Mama. I'll get as much as I can get done. I promise.
Yeah. Well, I will say too that I mean the style we'll say red dirt, we'll say outlaw country, whatever you want to kind of label it as. What a cool time in country music as a whole to have such an influx in that sound that lends itself perfectly for you. And you've obviously had a relationship with Warren Ziders, who's you've been touring with, and he's got a great sound like that too. So what does that mean to you, knowing that this is kind of that lift up for that sound and for you being that kind of an artist?
Well, it means that I got to keep the momentum going. So it's like 15 years. I guess I was just practicing for 15 years, and then so it's like now everybody thinks I got some kind of secret formula or something. I don't think it's really that. I think it's just right now it's a real good time for real music, and I think that everybody wants to hear authentic. They want to see authentic. They don't. You know, I don't think you can fake that. And I think that people are catching on that you can't fake what you ain't. And you know, if people want to get into this genre, they have to go through some hurdles of life, and they got to put some of their struggles that they might, you know, may not want to talk about in a song, may not want to sing about every night. But if you want to be in this realm, you know, you got to realize that we all go through struggles, whether we're singing about it or not. So you know, if you put them down on paper, you still got a chance to hang around town.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk a little bit about that too, because obviously country music, there's so many subgenres underneath it, and there are some artists that may stray a little bit away from, their true sound to try to experience a little bit more of that success. What is it for you in that mindset, knowing that that is potential? I mean, that could come across where you get a song that's like, it's not quite me, but that's clearly a hit song. How do you decide?
Well, when I write, especially for other artists and stuff like that, I can write any genre that you want to hear. Like I really can. I've written country, and I've written rap. I've written blues. I've written rock. My first writing session up here was with Scott Stapp from Creed, and
Wow.
and it was me and him and Daughtry's bass player and Aerosmith's producer, and we wrote a song, and that was my first introduction to town. And then I've written rap with my buddy Colt Ford. I've written that little hook on FAFO. They just started off as a random freestyle hook on TikTok just as a joke, and I didn't even know it was going to blow up like it did. But I'm grateful for it. But when it comes to what I put out, I think it's always got to be now. I've learned that there was a lot of times when I wrote something, I may not have been going through it. I just might have been putting myself in a bad mental state to write a sad song, and I may not have been that sad. And then I learned that those words I had to live not long afterwards, and I've learned now to project my words wisely, and to make sure that if I'm writing it, I better be ready to live it. And
Mhm.
that's with any genre. If somebody wants me to write with them or for them or anything like that, I always tell them, I'm like, what I'm going to write is going to be, what I'm ready to live. And if you're going through the same thing and we can relate, we might can get on the same page and move forward with each other. And um, I think that's a big aspect of it now, is to know that when I write it, after all these years of writing by myself with a co-writer or whatever, I'm always trying to project myself and my listeners forward.
Mhm. I think that's great. We gotta not skim over so lightly, though, the opportunity to write with, Scott Stapp and all your introduction to town, and you're just like, you get this set up, and you're like, man, this is easy. Well, how is it such a hard time for other people, right?
Well, Scott, man, it was so cool. Like, I mean, I remember coming into town nervous as all get out. I mean, he hits me up, and he's like, I really like your lyrics, and I really want you to come write. And then when I sat down in the room with him, I'm going, oh my God, it's just Scott Stapp. Like, how do I keep my composure? How do I am I a good enough writer to be in this room? So it's like it's a
Mhm.
lot of things going through your head, and you're almost stuck in this place of going, what can I learn from this, and how much can I attribute to this writing session? But
Mhm.
I learned that Scott's a very real guy. He's a very compassionate songwriter, and the more I've navigated this town, I've learned that there's just so many people I've looked up to, like Cody Jinks. I just wrote with him and wrote a few songs for his new album. Um, they're all just really great guys, and they're all just normal, uh, real, uh, heart bleeding, um, struggle living guys. And I think that that's what I've learned the most from like Daryl Worley, writing with Daryl and going on tour with him. And he's became one of my best friends. And now Cody's one of my best friends. And, it's just so cool to know that all my heroes so far have been damn good friends.
Yeah. How cool is that too? I mean, obviously, Daryl Worley is a perfect example, a guy that you've listened to for a long time, right? And you've heard his songs, and then now you can tell people he's your best friend, and you're going to have that same kind of influence on other artists coming up behind you. So,
Yes, sir.
does that translate to you? Do you ever think
It-
about that?
well, I've had to here lately. I've had to realize that I started out as a songwriter, never really to be honest with you, I never set out to be as big of an artist as I am. So I set out to be a songwriter but I realized nobody was lining up in the middle of the woods in Louisiana. And so when my artist level grew, I realized there was a lot more people wanted to ride with me than when I first came to town. But also, I thought, man, that's a great retirement plan.
Yeah,
No matter what, I've got the thing. Look at David Lee Murphy, man. He's doing fine.
perfect. Yeah, he's doing all right. Yeah, Red Akins even too, right?
Yes,
Doing
sir.
fine.
All of them, man. They've got it figured out. And I think that's the thing is, I now look at younger artists that are coming up and they say, man, you're really an inspiration. I look up to you and I go, well, make sure you're looking at the songs. Don't look at the past and the hard living that got with it, because I ain't always been, well, I still struggle every day to just make sure I'm doing better tomorrow than I did yesterday. And I just hope that they see the growth in it.
Yeah.
I don't want them to ever stunt their growth by trying to look up to me.
Yeah. Well, that's a good professional and personal way to look at life in general, right? Every
Yes,
day
sir.
try to be better and always just try to, learn from each day previous. And I know you've got a whole life of experience in that regard too. But let's talk about the success and the growth that you've seen in your career. And we mentioned obviously having these other people telling you that you're an influence, but you got to admit, obviously, your career's taken off, and you're starting
Yes,
to
sir.
see a lot more success, which is awesome. But there's certain things as an artist that you have luxuries, right? And you also have things that you're like, I'm not going to let anybody handle that, right? So I
Yeah,
want
yes,
to
sir.
know, from a business standpoint, what is the next position that you're going to hire that you're like, I want somebody to take this off my plate right away? And what's that thing that you're going to hold on to forever? You're like, nobody's taking this away from me.
Well, I think the next position is going to be a bus driver because I'll drive everywhere.
You really,
Yeah, I do.
man.
Man, I've driven 16, 18, 20 hours sometimes at a time and go play right to a sound check and play the show and then have to leave the next day and go another 8 hours. And I think that it gets kind of wearing on me. And
Hmm.
you know, this ain't because I don't have a razor. It's just because I ain't had time, man. But I think that it's one of those deals where I've learned to delegate some things and to know that it is okay to, you know, sit back and enjoy a little bit. I think that's my hardest thing to do is when you got momentum, you don't ever want to take your hands off the wheels because as long as that quality control is in your hands, as long as I'm the one shaking the hands and meeting the people and having these one-on-one conversations, I know that y'all are getting me. And I, it's not that I don't trust nobody to do that. I just don't know if they can be me.
Yeah. But honestly, that's such a good way to look at it, and you think about that because I've had so many people that have come up to me ever since you were announced that you're coming to Indy. They're like, "Oh my gosh, like I am so excited to go and see Bryan Martin." And for you, like, all of these other artists that are out there, these, artists that are doing the same kind of level runs that you're doing. You also know all these people that are doing stadium tours, but people are choosing and deciding between which shows to see, and they're choosing to spend their money with you. So, how do you make sure that the audience gets their money's worth, but also when they leave that show, they're saying, you know what? I'm already looking at the next tour date and I want to go and buy tickets to that show now.
Well, until they run me out of the venue, I'm gonna be in there meeting everybody I can, and then if they run me out of the venue, until they run me out of the parking lot, I'll be in the parking lot trying to meet as many people as I can, and I'm gonna try to do that as long as I possibly can, and mainly because I've waited 15 years on y'all. You know,
We finally caught up, right?
yeah. They, So my deal is like, I played probably more than 1,000 or so rooms to 10 people. So being able to play to 100 or 200 or now, 1,000, 2,000 cap rooms, it's unreal to me. And for people to spend their hard-earned money, I know what it takes to make that money, and I know what it takes to go out there and work your butt off and take money out of your family's mouth to come see a show and get a little bit of entertainment from somebody, but not only entertainment. If it's anything, I hope it's inspiration and hope they see exactly what they hear in the lyrics because that's all I can be. And I hope that they take something away from that and they take it back to their place and know that, hey, if that old boy can do it, I can do it.
I love that, man. Well, I'm not going to keep you any longer. I could
Yes,
do
sir.
literally talk for hours because you are just a very interesting guy and you've got such a great presence about yourself. But we need people to come and see it at 8 Seconds Saloon and see it for themselves. So you can get more information and get tickets for the show at WFMS.com or at 8secondsaloon.com. And Bryan, we'll see you on Friday, my friend.
I'll see you on Friday. It's my second time coming back. Last time I was with Colt. So
There
this
you go.
time we're carrying the weight. Y'all got to come out.
We're going to have fun, man. All
Love
right.
y'all, man.